arranging books or
Sure.
distraction?
Chapter 10. We made it to chapter Yud, Nekiyut, Bevi'ur, Midat Nekiyut. Okay, so let's first discuss a few things. The whole idea of this book is based on the gradual development and not, things happening immediately. It's all a process, like you were talking about. Stage by stage, stages. One thing leads to the next. It's like when the idea came out in the time of Rav Kook, there's the idea of what's it called? It like man comes from monkey, evolution. So the Rav Kook, he said, I'm so happy that this idea is coming into the world, not because it's right or wrong. Any scientific development could be right or could be wrong, because it's always in a process of learning and growing and discovering new things. That's what science is. So Judaism is not, when we learn Torah, we're not learning science. When we learn that God created the world in 7 days, or when we learn about the cows, let's say, we're not interested what the cow is made of. We're interested what is the moral responsibility of the owner of the cow. So, yes, you were going to ask something?
So you talk about Rav Kook and science and his reaction to something in the scientific world. Do you also know anything of his conversation with Albert Einstein? Because he apparently had such a conversation.
I don't know, but we can discuss that after, because I have books that are on that. But so the Rav Kook said, I'm so happy that this idea of evolution is now becoming the popular scientific development, because people thought of something being strong. God's greatness is that he creates something from nothing. And suddenly you hear this idea of a gradual development. And that is very important, because people are looking for a quick fix, an immediate thing to happen. And things don't have to always happen that way. God could also work in a way of things developing. And that's why it says God could have created the world in one saying. It says that God created the world 10, Asara ma'amarot nivra ha'olam. God said, Vayomer Hashem yehi or. God said, let there be. Right? There was 10 times that He made the world with 10 sayings. Why didn't He do it in one shot? To teach us that the world is meant to be developed. There's things you need to understand. There's stages that you have to go through. It's a process. And that's what Rav Kook wanted people to understand and accept. Like a lot of people today are waiting for Mashiach to come, right? We're waiting for the redemption to come. We don't have to do anything. We sit back, and then one day we turn around, the Beit HaMikdash is built, and there we are, and the redemption happened. But that's it could happen that way, but the idea of development and Geulah comes kima and stage by stage, slowly, that's an idea that is important for people to understand. That things happen, there's a development, there's a process, there's a stage, there's stages, there's levels. So let's go. So that's the way the Mesilat Hashem is based on. We're in the 10th chapter.
We're in the 10th chapter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Mesilat Hashem is based on stages and levels. If you haven't passed through level 1, don't jump to level 2. It's very important, the stages. By the way, there's a lot of rabbis today that are very modern and very, they're more accepting or more popular or more friendly, user-friendly.
Right.
And the Rav Kook said an incredible thing. He wrote to his son. When Rav Kook came to Israel, he wrote to his son, the secular people here hate me. And I'm so happy. This is an amazing development. Because at first, you only hate something that arouses something in you. At first, they didn't even care about the religious people. Now they hate me because it arouses something. And he wrote to him, don't worry, these are the stages of redemption that are going to take place. The first stage is going to be hate. Then there's going to be respect. So in Hebrew, I'll say the words. Hate, sinah, kvod hadat, chibat hadat, hakarat hadat, shmirat hadat. He said to his son, there's going to be 4 stages that are going to take place as far as the development of the Judaism. The first stage, they're hate. Before that was apathy, is even worse. You don't even care. But hate is the next stage. Then it's going to be respect. People are going to have respect for religion. Then they're going to have the chibat. They're going to think it's not only respected, it's a wonderful thing. It's a pleasant thing. It's a lovely thing. And then they're going to learn about it, and then they're going to do it. And there's many modern rabbis that they want to jump stages. They want to say, we're going to make you chibat hadat before you have respect for the dat. Right? We'll come towards you. We'll be more user-friendly. And my rabbi said, you'll never get there. If you skip stages, and you move right to, look, Judaism is so friendly and pleasant. You don't have to do anything. We accept everyone how they are. You want to convert without mitzvahs, no problem. You want to, right? It's not going to, you can't go back in stages. The levels that you go through are very important. Here, we're going to talk about that, the same thing in the Mesilat Yesharim. So again, we like to give a quick overview. So the stages is, the book of Mesilat Yesharim has 3 groups. It's based on the Braita of Pinchas ben Yair. If you've done the first 3 steps, Zeirut, Zizut, Nekiyut, you become a tzaddik. The next 3 stages, you become a chassid. And the next 3, you become a kadosh, someone who has Ruach HaKodesh, the highest level you can reach. Okay? So this book is a book on how to have Ruach HaKodesh. The first 3 steps to become a tzaddik, you have to, and which a tzaddik means you do what is expected of every Jew. A chassid is someone that does above what is expected. And then a kadosh has no other reality besides serving God. Okay? So, a tzaddik is what's expected of everyone, and the way the Ramchal writes the system is you have to have zehirut. We explained what that is, which zehirut means not letting your habits run your life, but take control of your life. Don't pay attention. Be aware of life. Be aware of this, the reality of serving Hashem. The second one is zrizut, is to go and become a person that is excited, full of love, full of excitement, full of passion. This week's parsha talks about the kosher and non-kosher animals. One of the kosher animals is a fish that has to have 2 character traits, 2 physical traits. One is fins and scales. Scales is the armor. That's zehirut. You have to have armor. You have to be on guard. You have to be very sensitive to your internal world, sensitive to the spiritual reality. That's armor. That's the what we call kaskasim, which that's the way you used to wear armor. Used to look like a scales of a fish. And then you have to have also fins. Fins is what the fish uses to move. Right? That is a symbol of zrizut. If you only are guarding yourself, if you're only on protecting yourself, not doing anything wrong, you're not kosher. Because God didn't create you to just lock yourself in the room and not do anything wrong. God wants you to go out there, not only not make a chilul Hashem, make a kiddush Hashem. So that is, if you have zirut and zrizut, you're a tzaddik. So where are we at now? Now every chapter, again, I'm just giving you the quick overview. Forgive me if you heard this many, many times. Every chapter has 4 parts. Every character that you want to acquire, there are 4 steps you have to take. If you don't take these steps, you're not going to acquire it. What are the steps? Number 1, understanding the overview. We said, very important. You learn Torah. Don't jump into the details. Understand the overview. Understand the concepts. Understand the layout. Understand the goals, the sub-goals. Right? That's the klal. Then prat. It's not enough to know the general idea. You have to know, what do I have to do in order to reach zehirut, for example. This is for the layout for each one of the characters. Then you need kniyah. Just because you know what to do in general, you know what to do in detail, if you don't have motivation, you're not going to do it. I know what to do. Tell me, say back what you have to do. I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great, you know what to do. Why aren't you doing it? I don't know. I'll tell you why. Because you don't have motivation. You need to have motivation to do it. And how do you motivate yourself? Depending on who you are. There's 3 different personality types. Everyone has a different way of motivation. So even if you know something so important, you need to motivate yourself. You have to discover what motivates you, based on the Ramchal shows us how to do it, each chapter. And then what's left is hefsed. What's left is If you don't do the maintenance and the upkeep, you will lose it. You went to the army, you got in great shape, now you're out of the army. If you don't work out, if you don't continue to do the upkeep, the maintenance, you'll lose it. You learned great things in the army of order, or whatever it is, or yeshiva, whatever you did. If you don't do maintenance and upkeep, you will lose it. So now that's the layout of the book. For each character has these 4 parts: overview, detailed, motivation, and upkeep. To upkeep that you have to how do you say, the upkeep for the maintenance. Exactly, maintenance. Now, what's left? We already have zerut and zrizut. What's the third one? It's called nekiyut. That's where we are now. Nekiyut, and we are now in the first part of nekiyut, which is understanding the overview of nekiyut. Okay? Now it's very interesting. What does nekiyut mean? Cleanliness. We're not talking about cleanliness of cleaning for Pesach, even though it's min hashamayim that it came out that we're learning, like come in Nisan, coming up to Pesach, we're learning nekiyut, because it's not a cleanliness of cleaning your house. It's a cleanliness of cleaning your internal house. Okay? So here we are. We are midat nekiyut. So what is midat nekiyut? What is cleanliness? Isn't this enough to have zerut and zrizut? Now I'm a tzaddik? No, you have to have one more piece and then you'll be a tzaddik. What is nekiyut? So read inside. Midat nekiyut hiyot adam naki legamre mikol midah ra'a umikol chet. So cleanliness is basically taking zerut and refining it one more level of going deeper into the cleanliness. So again, if this is the first time you're learning Mesilat Yesharim and you're jumping into nekiyut, so it's higher levels of cleanliness. Like, don't expect that this is for you, because you need to go back to zerut. Is how do I what is zerut? Zerut, yes.
So Mesilat Yesharim is about repeating what you already know. What if you are a newer Talmid and you don't know much?
Right. But again, he's saying, it's a big question what he writes in the beginning. I'm not here to teach you anything you didn't know. So one opinion says maybe it's just humility. He's talking out of humility, right? I'm not teaching you anything you don't know. Like, it's a humble way of talking. Another thing that I heard from Rabbi Tzurkaman is he said, I'm not teaching you anything you don't know, because in the stomach you learned the whole entire Torah from the angel. So here you're learning what you already learned before. So you learned it, but you're just hearing it again.
Is this?
But the idea of the book is that it's not a book of knowledge; it's a workbook. The purpose of this book is not for you to learn new things, but it's how you can apply it in your life. How you can become a better person in your personality, in your relationship with God, and that's the purpose. It's tikkun midot. Right, like we said, how could you come to love Hashem? How could you come to admire Hashem? How could you come to correct your character? How could you come to serve God with the right intentions? That's what this book is coming to teach you. So you know it, but we don't. Okay? So what is nekiyut? So here it's very interesting. So nekiyut is, imagine you have a field, right? You have a field full of boulders. So first you take out the big stones. That's zehirut. Zrizut, you plant the seeds. Nekiyut, you now go and take out the smaller stones, because things will not grow well if you have all those small stones. We'll explain what this is the overview. So we said zehirut, zrizut, and nekiyut. So of course, what's the first question you'll ask? Why would I start with, right, zehirut, take out the big stones, then nekiyut, take out the smaller stones, and then plant the seeds? Yeah. So we'll answer that question during the class. But that's a good question, right? This is the Breita of Pinchas ben Yair. So why is it in this order? If you want to throw out ideas, feel free.
Sorry, the zerut is the capacity to this.
Zerut is how to, like we said, take out the big stones. Like, how do I stop doing the things that I know I want to stop? I'm not keeping Shabbos and I want to keep Shabbos. Okay, now I did it. What is nekiyut?
Is to lose completely the
nekiyut
to do things.
No. So you're saying that's one idea of nekiyut. You're right. Nekiyut, cleanliness, is to be like not have any desire for negative things. That's a very high level, but we're talking here about other things. We'll get there. So he says, once you've gone through, lo dai ma she'achet bo mefursam vegalui, once you've gone through zehirut, where there's the famous averas, there's the famous things that you know you don't want to do, and you learned how to overcome the difficulties, zehirut. But there's also elagam ma she'alev nifta bo lehorot heiter badavar. There are a lot of things that we do, and we have no idea that they're even wrong. So once we were able to have zeirut, was to stop doing the things that we were aware are wrong. Now, and he said, right? In other words, we're living in, just to remember what we spoke about before, we're living in a world after the sin of Adam and Chava. And the Nefesh HaChaim explains that, like, for example, there's a lot of reasons. People do very things that are very wrong, and they have no idea that it's even wrong. What, for example? Do you know that you shouldn't be living out of Israel? It's a mitzvah deoraita to live in Israel. That's what I have a list of questions they asked Rav Kanievsky, and is it a mitzvah today? Is it a mitzvah deoraita to live in Israel? Yes, a mitzvah deoraita. The Chabad Rebbe, the last Chabad Rebbe, he has the letters of questions. One of the questions was, the person asked the rabbi, a very honest person, said, Rabbi, it says, Kol adar b'chutz la'aretz domeh ki'ilu oved avodah zarah. This person wrote a question to the Chabad Rebbe. It says, whoever lives out in Israel is if he is idol worshipping. What do I do with this, what I just learned? So the Rebbe wrote back, as long as you are ready to drop everything and move to Israel, when Mashiach comes, you're okay. So this is the letter went back and forth. The person wrote, what does this mean? That I'm like an idol worshiper? He wrote back, as long as you're ready to leave, Mashiach comes, he comes, you just drop everything and go, you're okay. Because in your mind, you're ready to move. She wrote back, she or he, Rabbi, I have to be honest. I definitely would not be ready to drop everything and go. My house, I have to leave my house? You're saying I have to be ready to drop everything and go? I have to leave my house, all my money, all of my investments, like just walk out? So he wrote to her, if you drill a tzedakah box into your house and you turn your house into like a Beit Midrash, a place of chesed, then it says that the shuls will be planted back in Israel. And then you won't have to leave all your finances. You'll be able to move. You can be able to take it with you. Atidim batei knisiyot shebebavel liot ready to be built in Israel. So if you go to a lot of Chabad houses, you see a tzedakah box has to be drilled into the wall. Most of them don't know this story, but this is the story where it comes from. So they drill it into the wall. So I'm saying there's a lot of things that people are not aware. But why is it? It's a mitzvah. Yes, it's a mitzvah. So even things that you're not aware of. So now we're going into the level of things that you're not aware of, but they're very serious. So what do I do? How do I find out what I'm not aware of? Very simple. Buy a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, right? And today it's very, very complex. Why? Because the Nefesh HaChaim says when Adam and Chava, Elohim bara et Adam yashar vehema bikshu cheshbonot. When God created Adam and Chava, it was very clear. There's good and there's bad. There's doing the will of Hashem and not doing the will of Hashem. After the sin, what happened was the snake now owns a little portion of your heart, your desires, your idealism. You were really sure I have to hate that person because he's doing against the will of God. And you're sure 1,000,000% that you hate that person because this is the will. Adei Hashem sinura. No, it's coming from that snake that has its little dwelling place in you that is pushing you to hate that person. And it's not coming. It's very complex. It's like, for example, somebody knocks on the door and says, hi, would you like some heroin? they knock on the door. Would you like heroin? You close the door in their face and you call the police. It's very simple. But a person who's a heroin addict, when that person knocks on the door and says, would you like the heroin? It's now a struggle. It's a battle. It's very difficult. So we're living in the world where there's a big struggle, not only between the good and the bad, but between knowing what is good and what's bad, because they're complex. It's very difficult. And we're not saying here, again, we're talking about a tzaddik. We're not saying take on chumras. We're not saying go and do things that no, just do what is expected of a Jew. Expected of a Jew is I always said to my Rabbi, just tell me what to do. I'm not looking for the chumrah level. But a person who has nekiyut is a person that people will look at him as like, wow, he thinks he's something better than everybody else. He thinks he's so great, right? If you say, like Rav Shlomo Aviner said, his first day at Merkaz Harav, he sat down at the table. He sat here, and there was two students sitting here, and for lunch. He just finished Yom Kippur War, and he came into Merkaz Harav, and there's two students sitting. One student says to the other one, I have to tell you a story about this guy. You're not going to believe what he did. This one sitting here, and he's just watching, observing. The one sitting here says, I'd rather not hear the story because I don't want to hear Lashon Hara. No. It's such a good story. You have no idea the way he got caught. That he did. I understand. You want to share with me. I appreciate it. I'm asking you, please, softly. I really don't want to hear Lashon Hara about this person. No, but listen. This went on, and the rabbi just stuck to his guns. Who was that person? It was Rav Dov Begun. Rav Shlomo Aviner was watching Rav Dov Begun going through this discussion of, and he said, that was my first class at Merkaz Harav. That's nekiyut. Why is it nekiyut? Because most people think, speaking about somebody, if it's not something that is a lie, it's not Lashon Hara. But no, the how do you say, the hagdara, the definition of Lashon Hara is something that you're speaking for. What's the purpose? If you're talking because you have an emotional difficulty, you need someone to hear you, it has a reason. It's for a purpose. Or you want to help a person, that's okay. But just talking is it's complex. There's a lot of halachas of Lashon Hara. And that's nikyu. Most people think that Lashon Hara is something that's okay. It's fine. All right? So that is very important. So if you would really go into it and figure this out, and by the way, I'll tell you a crazy story. I came back from Shlichut. I was with Shlichut with Amiel. We were on as a family. We came back to Israel, and my rabbi said to me when I called him up and I said, should I stay or should I go? Come back to Israel, stay. It's going really well here. He said, you went for your army service. You did your 2 years. Time to come home. But get ready. You're going to come back to Israel. You're going to be a efes afasim. Nobody's going to look at you. There you have you're a rabbi. You're have 400 students. You have important position. And also, by the way, there's a list of questions that my rabbi asked Rav Kanievsky about Zionist questions. I can show it to you. Anyone who wants, I'll send it to you. But a list of questions. One of the questions was, if two rabbis come to my office at the same time, one is a giant Rav from Chutz La'aretz, and one is a small rabbi from Israel, but they arrived at the same time. Which one do I take in first? What did Rav Kanievsky answer?
The small one.
The small one. He asked another question. Should a rabbi who could be a rabbi in America and make tons of money and affect people and save lives, he could do that there, or come to Israel and be a nobody? What should he do? Come to Israel or stay there and save lives and turn over the world? I'm just telling you what the Rav Kanievsky answered. He said, you should come back and be a nothing in Israel. I could show you the answers. These are questions my rabbi asked Rav Kanievsky, and he wrote the answers. Every day Rav Kanievsky would have 2 hours where he just answer questions, and he would write one word, yeah, lo, ken, lo, very unbelievable. Anyway, so I came back to Israel, and like he said, I went and knocked on all the yeshivas and all the things, but I was a rabbi there, doing like, there's another 100 guys in line, go find your friends. The only job I was able to find was for a girls' school to teach in the girls' school. Okay? So I went to my rabbi, I said, I got a job, thank God, what do I teach? And this is an incredible story. I said, what do I teach? He said, what do you mean? You teach Mesilat Yesharim. Great. What? I don't know how am I supposed to teach Mesilat Yesharim. Here's my book with the perush. Just, you just translate and read it. Amazing. So I had this great job. It was like a mechala for girls, and great job, right? Like a university style. Doing great. I'm teaching. I come to Mesilat Yesharim. I come to the 11th chapter, 10th chapter. Nekiyut. There's a lot of things that people do. They don't really know that they're doing it wrong. And it says that, you're not really supposed to look at women. I say, like, talk with women. Or, of course, if it's for a purpose, if you have your teacher, your daughter's teacher, a guy should not be. I said, Rabbi, I'm learning here I got to Nekiyut. I never knew this, but I'm teaching girls, young girls. He says, well, the truth is, to teach girls, you have to be either a big tzaddik or a big Russia. And you're not this, and you're not that. So don't teach women. So I packed up, and thank God, it's been an amazing journey where Hashem guided me, and incredible. It was a great gift. But
do you teach women?
No, that was it. I'm saying that was 15 years ago. And once he said no. But the big question is, why didn't he tell me when I asked him? Why didn't he say to me? Why didn't he say to me?
Maybe he wanted to.
Why did he say to me, don't teach women? I told him I got a job teaching women. He said, here, teach them this. And then, why would he say this to me? What?
Because you asked him what to teach. You didn't ask him whether or not to teach.
I know, but he's your rabbi. I tell you shouldn't do that.
Said this to him.
Why? And this is the most incredible answer.
Wanted you to come to a conclusion by yourself.
Maybe, but I'll tell you the greatest answer is based on the same question we asked. If Nekiyut.
Oh, I get it.
If
he wanted you to learn on your own that you shouldn't be teaching women through Mesilat Yesharim.
Maybe, but I'm saying another thing is that it's the same answer. We asked the question, if we have Zeirut, right? Zeirut is taking out the big boulders. How do we stop doing the things I know I want to stop? Now I should go to Nekiyut, take out the small boulders, and then Zrizut, and go run and then plant the seeds, then go run in excitement and action and do it, right? Why is it come after, Nekiyut come after the Zrizut? The answer is, you ready? Is if you don't have, the Nekiyut means stepping away from certain things that you love doing. You didn't know you're not allowed to. You enjoy it. In order to drop those things, you have to be having it's not like you want to take something away from someone, give him something else that gives you excitement and passion, enjoyment. So if you don't have the zrizut, and which is the love, the excitement, the passion, then you can't let go of these things that you're going to discover that are not allowed, that you thought are fine. So that's why obviously I had to go through the process of the zeirut, zrizut, nekiyut. Then you're able to let go. If he would have told me in the beginning, you can't I'm saying maybe not, but if he would have said to me, you can't teach women, I'd say Judaism's too hard, or like these rabbis it's too much. He knew that there's this process, there's a certain time that you're able to, maybe I just didn't ask the question, or maybe he knew I still have to go through a certain feeling of connection to God, of love of God. Like again, like my kids know, I stopped listening to women singing. It's not because I don't like hearing women singing. I love hearing women sing. They sing much nicer than men. But I had to reach a certain stage. I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. And that took a long time. And once I said I'm ready to do it, my rabbi said, you don't have to conquer everything. But there's no going backwards once you conquer it. Make sure you're ready to take the next step. Because you're taking the step now. You're doing it. We don't have to conquer, even though Jordan is part of Israel. All of that, a big portion of Jordan is all Israel. We're not ready yet to conquer that. But, we are. But not the Jewish nation is not ready yet. But meanwhile, the parts that we conquered, Yudav Shomron and Gaza, whatever it is, or those, you don't go backwards. There's no going backwards. Yes.
So who are you poskening or lifsoking by? Because
my rabbi,
if you
Rav Shlomo Aviner again.
So
I have one rabbi, Rav Shlomo Aviner.
If you don't know what you looks like, it's fine.
If what?
If you don't know what
Again,
the
depends. There's many different shitas. I have a rabbi that this is how he. So when he said to me, you can't teach women or you can't listen to music, he's not saying that this is a chumrah or this is, there are shitas that say you could listen to women if you don't see her, if it's on a radio, it's not live, it's not this, you don't look at her. There's a million different things, but those are different rabbis. You have to have one. And by the way, a selech harav is not a halacha. There was one point when I had before Rav Shlomo Aviner became a rabbi, I had another rabbi. And my rabbi, Rav Shlomo Aviner, says that one of the worst averas you could do is go to Har Bayit. Go up to Har Bayit, he's like, is equivalent to you're murdering a Jew. You're walking, it's like, imagine you're going up to Har Bayit, like a Jew will be murdered because one Jew went to Har Bayit. That's very intense. But my other rabbi, I was just in between. I discovered Rav Aviner and I was like, wow, he's amazing. But I had another Rav who said, the biggest mitzvah in the world, the biggest Kiddush Hashem is you have to go to Har Bayit. And if you don't go to Har Bayit, it's like Jews are dying because you don't go to Har Bayit. It's like you're killing a Jew if you don't go to Har Bayit. So here I am torn. I went to my rabbi of Shlomo Aviner. I said, Rabbi, what do I do? I'm in this in-between stage. You're my rabbi and he's my rabbi. He says go, you say don't go. He said, it's not a halacha, selech harav, you have to have one rabbi. So in your situation, you can choose which one you feel like going by. Even though to him it's the most intense thing in the world, you're killing a Jew. But you're allowed to have another.
One thing from a Rab and another one at the end you are the Rab. Because you choose for yourself.
But it's not a halacha that the selech harav is a good advice. It's not a halacha that you have to choose one rabbi and go only by him and nothing else. It's a good advice because it makes life a lot simpler. Like you said, because this rabbi says you have to do this, rabbi says you have to do that. It's like you're going to get a diet. One guy says a diet only milk products. Another diet says only meat or only not eat meat. Another one says only not milk products. So you want to do both, you're going to end up eating nothing and you're going to starve to death. But it's not, you don't have to, right? Anyways, he said, whatever your rabbi says, and that's the point where I said, you're my rabbi, that's it. I'm choosing one path and that's it. So anyway, let's keep going. So, and you have to understand something. Like we said, because we explained that the Yetzer Hara has a little place in our heart, you know that all of the biggest murderers in the world, the biggest criminals in the world, even at the moment they're sitting on the electric chair before they killed him for all of the worst things they've done, they told themselves, I never hurt anyone. It was only self-defense. The worst murderers, the worst people. It's, in other words, people can justify, and they even themselves they don't know. There's so many things that we are not aware of that are wrong, and it takes a very I heard a story from a great a pilot. He's a pilot that did tshuva. Why did he do tshuva? Because he was flying in the plane. No, he was flying in the plane, and they tell him that when you fly in the plane, there's a black ball, and the bottom is white and the top is black, and you always know that if you turn around or you flip like a plane like this, so it will always stay that the white is the earth, and the black is the sky, and the number one reason why pilots they die during training or during flight is because there's something called vertigo. Vertigo means that you are sure that you spin so many times, you're sure the up is down and bottom is up. So he said he was flying and he flipped around and he had vertigo, and at that moment you have to just not think and you have to look at the ball. And if the ball tells you that this is down and that's up, and then when you look in the ground, it's very difficult to know because there's stars and there's lights. So they look the same. So you don't know if you're up or down. It's night and you don't know if you're up or down. And the only way to know is you have to trust that ball. And if you don't, again, you have one split second. You don't trust it. You say, no, I'm a smart person. I know that this is up. If you instead of going up, you're going down and you crash. So he said when this happened to him and he was sure that the up was down and down was up, he realized there has to be a ball like that tells us what's up is up and what's black and white, what's good and good and what's bad is bad, because our minds, our abilities to know that is so limited. And therefore, we have to have something, and that's the Torah. Look today, there's a lot of questions. Should you kill someone who is euthanasia? A person who is asking you to kill him. Kill me, I'm in pain. A lot of times that person could be saying that because he feels like a burden on his family. Because he thinks he can't make it through this difficulty. In the Torah it says don't murder. That's it. You don't murder. Again, there's very complex places where sometimes, yes, you can not give certain medical treatment because you don't have to interfere. You can't, go ahead and kill someone. But this place of, it's not that you just decide on your own. So this is what he says. Now you see the difference between Zahir and Aki. They're very close to each other. Hazahir is the person that's cautious, is careful to not do things that are well known. But still, he's going to do a lot of things that he is bribed. There's not just bribery, there's also what is accepted in society. That's a very big way that a person, it's a very powerful thing. We spoke about that in when we spoke about Zehirut. The three things to be careful, the maintenance and upkeep was society. Society is a very, very dangerous, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, certain things are accepted in society. It's accepted. It helps you to follow and go in that way. And this is what the Rambam writes, actually, that the sin of Adam and Chava, he turned emet v'sheker. There was something that was called emet. Emet is to do the will of a God, and the sheker is to not do the will of God. But he hemir it. He how do you say interpreted, or what's the word lehamir? To exchange. He exchanged those concepts of lie, something's a lie and something is truth, with social acceptance. Whatever is, in other words, how do I decide what's good and what's bad? Whatever is accepted in society. So until recent times, it was accepted in society that a man should not marry a man. Now they want to make it accepted that a man should marry a man, right? But that doesn't mean it makes it right, right? And therefore, a lot of things that are accepted in society, like, the society I live in says it's okay to live out of Israel. Or, Jews speak Lashon Hara, people speak Lashon Hara, like on TV, on all kinds of media, news, everything else. But, right? It doesn't mean that that's the way that's accepted, right? Like, and a lot of things that people are not aware of. And again, you can't talk to somebody about cleanliness if they're haven't gone through Zehirut, right? Because what are you talking to me about? Not listening to women sing. I'm busy, doing other things with women. Like, I'll get there one day, right? So, or like, saying a guy is not nice to his wife, but the secretary in the office, he's like, flirting with her and having fun with her, and then his wife calls, what do you want, right? Something. But it's people think it's accepted. It's okay. Okay. So that's what we're saying is, because again we said many people can somehow control themselves and from the desires, but you can't really change your nature. And this is what we're talking about. How do you actually change the nature? And there's a big battle. We talked about this in the first chapter. There's a big battle between what you know is right and between your desires. And between the body and the sechel, and you have freedom of choice. It's a big, big battle. And whoever does it, that's a hero. And what is the weapon that you have? Your sechel. Your sechel, your ability to learn, to understand, right? If there's things that you know, but you're not doing, so learn it more. Understand it more. It means you haven't really understood it. You haven't really internalized it, right? Because you need to have, it's a big battle, and you need to try to, as much as you can, not get to a head-on-head fight with the Yetzer Hara, right? Of course, so we said, as many things that you can, as much as you can avoid the head-on-head battle. So what do you do? Omnam achar, and this is the overview. And the next chapter is a very long chapter where he goes through a whole list of things that are, first of all, ben adam lechavero. He gives a whole list of things that everyone is sure that are okay, but really they're not. And then he moves on to things that are between your personality, your midot. We're not in the zeirut. We talked about your actions. Okay, actions are easier to change, right? Like somebody, I get angry, and the neighbor knocks on the door. Hi, how are you? I'm still boiling, furious, angry. Okay, we're not going to get to the how do we deal with the. Now we're talking about how do I already. Nikiyut is how do I now work on it to not get angry. Oh, how do I work on that? Not that I can stop myself when I'm angry and not act on it, not punch the guy in the face, right? Because we can do that. We know you can change your right? Someone knocks on the door, you're screaming, you're yelling, and you're furious. The knock on the door, oh, hello, how are you? How can it be? The person was so angry, now they're not angry anymore? They're still just as angry. But we have control of our actions, unless a person is a mental ill person. But now we're talking about now going deeper, how do we actually change the character? So that is the 11th chapter goes through, like we said, the list of the things between Ben Adam lechavero, and then things between God, and then things between, and your personalities, your midot, right? It's a dynamic process. And here we are. Omnam, okay. And this was David HaMelech. David HaMelech said, El chatz b'nikayon kapaya sevavat mizbachecha Hashem. There's a question, isn't this like prideful? I am a cleanly person, says David HaMelech. By the way, like we said, how could he say that? So my rabbi said once a woman came to him and said, Rabbi, I feel like I have pride because everyone around me speaks Lashon Hara and I don't listen. And I come home feeling like, wow, I'm such an amazing person. And if, maybe that's a bad thing, that I feel so like I'm pride, like I'm so good. He said, that's not bad. That's called simcha shel mitzvah. It's wonderful that you feel like I'm overcoming it. Right? כי באמת רק מי שינקה לגמרי מכל נדוד חטא הוא ראוי לראות פני המלך. Right? Many of us feel that we could, get close to God with we're wearing our dirty clothing. You want to go into the king? You have to put on the nice clothing and come in clean. And by the way, the Rav Kook said, even though we're talking about cleanliness, which is not physical cleanliness, but a lot of the Musar places, they used to talk about how the connection between the external to the internal, and it's very. When Rav Kook said when he came to Israel, he said, "There's two things I need to advance in the Torah world. One, that they should be learning emunah, which is Mesilat Yesharim is the first step in that track of emunah, and two, we have to make things more cleanliness." And he said in Judaism in the last 2,000 years we lost a little bit in the yeshivot, and things need to be cleanliness, needs to be clean. Doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be, brand new. But cleanliness is very important. It says that a Talmid Chacham should not have a speck of dirt on his clothing. Cleanliness doesn't mean it's fancy, expensive clothing, but clean. Also on the physical sense. באמת, רק מי שינקה לגמרי. Only a person is really the cleanliness. הוא ראוי לראות פני המלך. That's a person that should be close to, go into the king. כי זולת זה אין לו לבוש להיכלם מפניו, אלוהי בושתי ונכלמתי להרים, אלוהי פניי אליך. You want to connect to God, you want to get close, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. It says that like even the prophets, they messed up. Elisha got angry and his v'sara malav ruach Hashem, he lost his Ruach HaKodesh. So also us, we need to be clean. How do I do it? It's a lot of work. It's hard. We're not saying it's easy. Again, the stages we talked about. Zehirut, to be a person that pays attention, that plans before he does, that is aware of his actions, is aware of his spiritual world, his personality. That is expected of you. To be a person that's excited and full of joy and love of God, that's not expected of you. Full of movement, that you have to already go above nature. Nekiyut is even harder, because again, we're talking about things that you're going to discover that are hard, very difficult to discover these discoveries. I can't teach women. I can't talk to women, look at women. But I enjoy that. But I thought it was good. Everyone does it. Everyone does it. Doesn't mean it's right. And again, if you're not there yet, start with other things. But hinei vadai melacha, like I said, as long as you're aware of your own personal world and how you have to be in a process of growth and movement your whole entire life. Always in a stage of how can I become better? How can I grow? Where am I at? I know Aleph, how do I move Bet? Where am I at? One step, what's my next step to moving forward? Like someone came to my rabbi and said, Rabbi, I smoke cigarettes, and on Shabbos, what should I do? How many cigarettes do you smoke on Shabbos? I smoke a pack a day, 20 cigarettes. Okay, next Shabbos, you start smoking only 18 and move up. And now, in the Ashkenazi world, it was all or nothing. In the Ashkenazi world, it was all or nothing. You either stop smoking cold turkey or add another pack of smokes, right? In the Sephardic world, they believe more in a process. Go slowly. It's not all or nothing. It's very difficult. It's a mistake. My rabbi said the Sephardim were right, that it's more important to understand things as a process, to be in a state of, in other words, first try to verify, where am I at? Okay, what's something I could take on? Someone came to Rav Tzvi Yehuda and said, and it's the same idea we spoke of Mesilat Yesharim, being this concept of a process. Someone came to Rav Tzvi Yehuda and said, I have so many things I need to fix, make me a list of all the things. Okay, which is the easiest one on the list that you could fix? Make that into a 10-step program, and now start working on the first step of the easiest one. Look at life as a process. Again, some people like working this way, other people other ways, but it's not like in stone how you have to do it, but a person should be in a process of growth, of movement, and there's no greater joy in life than when you feel that you're moving. Like we said, the world is turning. If you're not moving up, you're moving backwards. There's no such a thing as standing still. You're either going back down, you're either deteriorating, or you're growing, you're developing. And I don't remember, I just heard it, I'm telling you my way of saying it, but I heard it actually in the name of a rabbi, that you're either moving up or you're moving down. There's no standing still. Right? But that's the way it is in life. Anything. You want to be a doctor, you have to put in many years, 7 years to become a doctor. So if we're talking about working on your personality, working on your nefesh, then it's obviously it's hard work and it's worth it. And the Rav Kook and the Gaon of Vilna said, it's the only reason you're in this world. God put you in this world to develop your character, to develop your personality, to become a better person. So invest in it. כי עבירות הניכרות ידיעות קלות הם להישמע מהם, כיוון שראתם גלויה. אך דקדוק, that's harder, right? And like we said, והוא כעניין שאמרו זיכרונם לברכה. This is what the rabbi said, עבירות שהאדם דש בעקביו סובבות אותו בשעת הדין. When you get to Shemayim, what are the things that you discover? You discover all these things that you thought were purposeless. And that's why it's very important to take the stages and be in the process. As the rabbi said, רובם בגזל, מיעוטם בעריות, וכולם באבק לשון הרע. Most people steal, right? So this is the Gemara says. Most people steal. Less people do sexual immoral things. And everybody speaks lashon hara. Avak. Avak is like, I know this person doesn't like that person, and I say, oh, how are they doing? So I didn't say anything bad about him, but I mentioned his name, and I didn't think that maybe this will bring up this guy. Oh, I hate that guy. That's called avak lashon hara. So obviously, from the end of the Mishnah, you understand what the beginning of the Mishnah is. If it's talking about avak lashon hara, so it's talking about stealing that are things that are also very refined type of stealing, right? For example, if you take someone's pen, You just stole. You can't give it back. You stole from the ink. But what? The ink is like, how much did I use? Like nothing? Yes, but that's called stealing. But are you going to talk to a person about not stealing a pen from somebody when he's involved in actually stealing from like he does that for fun? Right? That's why Zeirut is, first of all, how do you stop stealing from the store? Then Nekiyut, after Zlizut, and then you can go to the more refined, the higher levels. So like you said,
if you give him a brand new pen.
okay, you can get, that you can give back, but then you're giving him repeat, and I don't know what, maybe you're over on repeat.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even, I mean, you could say it's repeat, but I mean, like, you got to think, like, what's the rule of thumb? Do we charge interest in the amount of ink? No. Maybe back in the 1600s when ink was like very
I'm just saying, we're talking about very refined things that you're not aware, that we're not aware of, right? And David HaMelech said, David HaMelech was so careful and so aware that he said, like, when I go out to battle, I know that I'm clean. I know that I can go and succeed because I know that I am refined in doing what I have to be doing, right? That's why David HaMelech, he would go with such security. And this is the most incredible thing, is that you think that, like, and this is so important that we mentioned David HaMelech. You think that, if I'm going to be a businessman, if I'm going to be a politician, you can't do things legally, you can't do things honestly. David HaMelech is saying, I am the most clean person. I was most careful to not do any business, how do you say, where you wash certain things under the table. Politicians, right? That's like the big thing, is how do you do all kinds of illegal things where you can't get caught, and they go to jail and they get caught. But it's all about protectiot and kombinot and all kinds of other ways. David HaMelech is saying, no, look, I was a king, I was a leader. Don't tell me that you can't be a businessman without lying, cheating, stealing, and all these other things. And I win, and I go full force, and I'm cleanliness. Yes, it's possible you can do it. This is what is expected. And this, he says, I'm not saying it's not easy. Omnam vadai midah hazot kasha. It's the most difficult job. I remember I told you I got a job selling software to people. My first question was, am I allowed to sell software? How many people use it? Halachically, how does it work? I went to my rabbi, I said, I got a job working in high tech, and we're selling softwares to people to open their home business. But I'm not sure how many people actually use it. My rabbi said, I asked the person I work, how many people, what are the numbers statistically? I need to know if I can sell it halachically. What? The only question you need to ask is, how many can I sell? You don't have to ask like these questions. So we took it, I took the question to the Machon Keter shel Technologia veTorah, and they went and did the research, and they came up with the conclusion was, if less than 50 people, 50% are successful with the software, you can't sell it unless you make an announcement. The majority of the people do not succeed using these softwares. I came back to the workplace, they looked at me, have you fallen off to the moon? You're fired. Next. Right? But most people don't ask questions. Next time I moved in, just write in, okay, how many do I sell? That's like, but that's not cleanliness. And again, I'm not going to say that I'm cleanliness on a lot of things, but on certain times in my life, I've had this test, and thank God was able to overcome it. And it's so difficult. We're not trying to say it's easy. Look at Shaul HaMelech. He brings here an example. Shaul HaMelech. God said, kill Amalek. Very simple. Men, women, children, everyone, you have to kill. What happened? Shaul had an answer to every question that Shmuel asked him. He said, why did you do it? What do you mean? I killed everyone. I just left the animals and I just left Agag. One person, and I can kill him anytime I want. I didn't ask you for an answer. You were given right? He wasn't even aware that, he says, why? Because at the end he said, Ki yareti et ha'am v'ashma b'kolam. Yes, I was pulled by the nation. They convinced me. I wanted to do what they wanted. Excuses, all kinds of things. But so he says, obviously, whoever reached this place, if you already reached Nekiyut, it means that you have been a warrior. You amad bifnei milchama chazaka v'amad v'nitzeach. You fought many battles already, and you won. Because you're at this chapter. So it means that you're a warrior. Now we're going to explain it. We're going to take you to the next level. And we're going to go through the details. And you will discover incredible things that you never dreamed of that are possible. Thank you very much. Sorry for going over to
No,
the time.
you didn't go over.
1 minute. That's